Welcome back to NostalgiaCast. I'm Darin.
And I'm Jonny.
And today we'll be taking a look at The Fugitive from 1993, directed by Andrew Davis and starring Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones, Joe Pantoliano, um, Julianne Moore's in there for a little bit, Celia Ward, a bunch of people, a bunch of really good, solid people. Jonny, I wanted to, I always say this, but maybe I mean it more than usual. I want to welcome our very special guest, Jaylan Salah. She is an author, a poet. She is the host of the J Day Reviews. She's a critic for InSession, for Geek Vibes Nation. She is the co-host of the Women InSession podcast. She's been a guest on Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle, Pop Culture 5, the Lone Screenplay Nominee podcast, Greatest Movie of All Time podcast, among many others. Jaylan, how are you doing? Beautiful.
I'm great. Thank you, Darin and Jonny. I'm just so excited to be here.
Well, we talked off camera, like or Jonny especially pointed it out, we really appreciate your energy. It's right off the bat. Like mostly we have to work up to that. And I hope that as hosts, we can keep your enthusiasm up as we keep talking.
Can I just say too, Darren, real quick?
Yes.
I love the little light on the end of your microphone. It's like one of those little angler fishes, or something. It looks awesome. So I just want to say it just has like a cool vibe,
It's an attention getter, right?
Yeah.
Like Jaylan needed more attention. I think she's a great attention getter on her own. So you and I, Jaylan, we've been friends for a bit, and we've talked on Twitter quite a bit, and I've been trying to get you on NostalgiaCast for a while. So when we settled on The Fugitive, and you just hit on it perfectly. When Jonny and I are covering this season as our 90s bucket list season, we covered 90s movies before. 90s movies were the films that Jonny and I cut our teeth on. It's what sparked our real imagination for film. It's when we started diving in. And so when we wanted to do another 90s season, we wanted to take on a bucket list kind of list of movies where because when Jonny and I started this podcast, we mostly did it for obscure movies that you find in the Walmart bin and like, oh, I haven't seen this in 20 years. I have good feelings about it. Let me buy it for $3. Let me see how it plays. And so it was like stuff like The Jazz Singer or Taps or just a bunch of movies or what was the one that we covered with it was the old 70s movie. It was like the cartoon. You remember that?
Clash of the Titans?
I can't even remember
the cartoon.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one we had with oh shoot, I forgot what it's called.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a Chuck Jones thing, right? And the Phantom Toll Booth. That's what it is.
That's right.
So movies that you really hadn't heard of, and so we didn't really get a lot of attention. But then Jonny and I kind of broke our cardinal rule, and we covered The Princess Bride, we covered Back to the Future, and it really started lighting something in our brains. Like, you know what? We can be nostalgic about the movies that we love too. And so that's when we started diving into 90s movies. And again, we wanted to revisit these and talk about movies that we've always wanted to talk about. The Fugitive has been something that ever since 93, it's always a movie. When I hear that name, I'm like, ooh, I have nothing but good memories of that movie. And so when I asked you if you wanted to do that movie with us, you had a very great response. It was, I've watched this since I was a kid. I have very strong feelings about it. And that's what we're looking for. We want that personal connection because we want our fans to know who you are and appreciate who you are. And I think talking about movies really can show that perspective. Let me just ask you, since I've been doing most of the talking here, what is it about The Fugitive? Why is that a movie that you wanted to talk about for this bucket list season? Why are you so excited about it, about this chat?
I think any 90s movie for me that I watched with my dad and enjoyed and had a strong reaction to it. Not all of them, of course, I enjoyed, but anything that I watched when I was a kid, and maybe I watched movies too early for my age. I want to talk about this because, like, my dad had a no strict rule on violence. Like we can watch anything. Sexuality, wait until you're older. So, but sometimes you have like this violent movie where there is a sex scene and my dad is like, okay, and we are kids. But my sister would always fall asleep. I would be the one staying. Like I remember staying with my dad watching The Last of the Mohicans, just us, and it was a very violent movie. And I remember even my dad was like, okay, should I have watched this with my daughter? And then he looked at me and was like, very bloody. And I'm like, yeah, Dad. But I was really taken. It was intense. So The Fugitive, my mom loved the TV series. I didn't watch it, but my mom like, oh my God. So when we watched it at home, VHS tape rental as usual, because my dad would always rent VHS tapes. Rarely we would buy. It was like a spectacle. Like that day, like my mom is like, oh, I want to watch. My dad is like sitting there. I'm too. And as a kid, things hit you differently. You're watching these people stars are like otherworldly to you. Like Harrison Ford is like, whoa, look at this man. And I was, as a kid, I was like very, very angry at Tommy Lee Jones. Like, I can't, I hate him. I want him to die. I want Richard Kimball to escape. And I was
Yeah.
just so, like, had these intense emotions. I'm a very passionate person. So watching this for me as a kid, it was like, oh my God, I want to save Dr. Richard Kimball. Now as an adult, I don't hate either, but
Yeah.
I remember being this kid who's like, villains, when I would watch like Die Hard or when I would watch a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, I would
Mhm.
always be like so passionate, like, yes, save the world, I love you. And then I would hate the villain with an intensity. So same goes for Fugitive.
Okay, that's awesome. So, yeah, my connection with The Fugitive is, and I don't know if maybe The Fugitive is the one that really started this trend, but you have certain movies during the summer that you really look forward to. Like Jurassic Park was huge in '93. That was the one that I just was enamored with, and I wanted to see it. Cliffhanger too, like Sylvester Stallone. That was the next big action movie. But then a movie like The Fugitive comes along, and you don't expect anything of it because you don't, that's not the movie you were looking forward to. But then when it ends, you're like, that was maybe the best movie of the summer. You know what I mean? That was the best thing that I'd seen. It's just cut to '97 again. Jurassic Park: The Lost World came out, and that was the movie that my whole world was built on. And when I saw The Lost World, it wasn't what I wanted. It was kind of disappointing. I don't know if it's because the movie wasn't as good or because I just had too high expectations of it. But I remember leaving The Lost World feeling kind of defeated. Like I spent all that time like building my anticipation for the movie, and it didn't fit that. And then I saw Face Off later that summer, and that reinvigorated my love for movies.
Don't
You know,
remind me. I
yeah,
loved Face Off. Oh my God, Face Off. I think we watched it like also VHS tape 2 times in a
again and
row.
again. Yeah,
And my mom was like crying, like at the end when he's like introducing the kid to his wife and she shakes her. And my mom was like, this moment is. And I also would like cry with my mom, like, yeah, mom. So I get the passionate, like emotional, just investment in the film from my mother. She's always like that, like when she watches a movie and it has like the hero is dying or whatever, she cried. So I cried too. So I grew up to be that kind of kid.
yeah, great. And so you know what I'm talking about. I mean, Face Off was something that I wasn't ready for, and it was completely, it
Mm,
felt new because I wasn't maybe expecting it. But I think The Fugitive, and I think F1 might, I haven't seen it yet, but that's the movie that I was looking forward to, like Superman and Mission Impossible and all this stuff. But
ugh,
F1 is getting the reviews like, oh,
yes.
this is like a great, like we didn't see this coming, that kind of thing. So I think maybe The Fugitive started that trend where I look forward to summer movies surprising me. Like, sure, I love this movie and I want to see this movie over here, but what are the surprises? And I think, and we're talking blockbusters, right? Like Johnny and I would go to see every movie, whether or not it was advertised, whether or not we knew what it was. We would just go to the theater and we would watch it, and you'd find these surprises, right? And one of the things that I love about you, Jaylan, is that you kind of have that same attitude of, yeah, give me this stuff. Like seek the stuff out that you're not seeking the unknown, I think is how you put it, right? Find the things
100%.
that you adore. And I'll come back to that. I definitely want to, that'll be my first major question for you. But before that, Johnny, what is your connection with The Fugitive?
Well, I didn't see this in the theater when it came out that summer. I saw it with my family on home video when it was on at Blockbuster or wherever, and I remember really liking it. I didn't have the same connection that maybe you two did, but it's not something I revisit often. But I did remember we studied it in my film class when we went to the editing section.
Okay.
We talked about this movie and studied how it was edited and how it's put together and everything. And I will say this, like, even though I like it and it's well done, I think the beginning sequence when it's got like that's going back and forth with the the she's getting assaulted, murdered, whatever,
Yeah.
and it's got that black and white negative look. Like that was all the rage back then, and that was something that everyone was doing. And
Yeah.
I don't think that aged very well. I think it looks amateurish. And so
Interesting.
when we first started watching, I was like, "Oh no, this looks like a '90s film," because it is. But anyway, like everything else after that, when they stopped using that effect, was great. You know what I mean? But when they were using that, I was like, that did not age very well.
Yeah.
But overall, I still really enjoy the movie.
Okay. Well, that's like I said, the personal connection is what matters, I think, when we're talking about movies. And like we talked about, it's how we figure out who you are, Jaylan. And so I want to ask you, like you being a critic for InSession and Geek Vibes Nation, and recently written articles for InSession. I think Wong Kar-wai, you wrote an article on him. You wrote an article on Celine's song. The article that I was most enamored with, you talked about, and I'm not going to get the title right, but it was about monsters and motherhood, right?
Oh,
And I wrote you about that one. Your article, the way that motherhood and all that stuff, all that ties in. The way you talked about aliens, the way you talked about the Babadook, the way you talked about was it Ma? Is that the name of it? The horror movie? I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
yeah, Mama or Ma,
Mama.
something like
Yeah,
exactly, huh?
that's the
Mama.
one. So what I love. I don't just love reviews that kind of point out things that I hadn't thought of. What I really love are reviews that reveal something personal about the person that's writing it. And I just thought that article was so raw and was so open and it was so honest and emotional and rough. It was rough reading it because I respected you so much, but I'm like, it pains me to read this because she's been through a lot of things. But the
Yeah.
way, a lot of pain, a lot of emotions, the way that you tied it in with movies about mothers, and I just thought it was, oh, I love that article so much. And so your writing is something I was like, I have to have this woman on. I can't, I have to talk with her. You know what I mean? But
My God.
what let me just ask you, because I know you were a translator, right? Or maybe you still
Yeah.
are. But how did you start to love movies? What was it that turned you into a full-fledged movie critic?
First of all, thank you for pointing out this article because honestly, Darren, these are the articles I wish I could write all my life.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, first of all, they won't get you the Rotten Tomato approved critic status. Second of
Yeah.
all, it's so hard. Like you work and you have responsibilities. So of course you have to write them far and in between. But the article you mentioned, I spent like 5 months of my life writing
Wow.
and having it edited with I have to give credit to Shadan Larkey, my editor. She was amazing. She, at a point, told me, Jaylan, I can't take anymore. Can I take a break? Because it touched her on a
Hmm.
personal level. And I was
Mm.
like, Shadan, I understand and I hug you and I understand this very well. Please take a break because it touched her so much. But honestly, a part of me was like, oh, yeah, this is what I want to do to people when they read my stuff. So thank you for mentioning because this is so dear to me. I loved movies because I think we were like weird kids, my sister and I. Our dad took us to museums, to plays, instead of all the kids going, like to hang out and dance in, like the local country club or, like meeting in hangouts in kids' areas and stuff. We would go to museums. We would go to, like, my dad would get us like a sneak into tickets to the local film festival. We would go and like watch the stars. Let's watch, like they have this and this and this. But we would leave before, like the premiere film because it would always be R-rated and uncut and stuff. But we would still get that. We always had movies at home. We watched every single animated movie out there, not just, Disney cartoons and stuff, but just even, like animated stuff, even obscure, weird New Zealandian animated films. So it was very weird growing up. We had like this massive library. We'd go to book fairs all the time. So it was, I think they instilled in us just the love of art and literature in general, which is why I always felt like people were so predictable because, wow, I read this plot somewhere. This friend existed in a book, and surprise, they ended the character. So the friend should end too. So it was just very weird for me to interact with normal people when there was books and films and stuff to watch. So I think I always loved movies because I thought I was a movie character. I can't be this different from people and be a normal person. No, my life must be a movie as well. Where's
Hmm.
that director? As a kid, of course, I wanted him to be Steven Spielberg, and then I grew up and it's Wong Kar-wai. So yeah, definitely my life centered around art and imagination, and I always wanted to also create. I wrote in my native language. I wrote novels and published them, and of course, no one read them.
Hmm.
So I always wanted to be part of this creative experience. So at least being a film critic, at least you can be part of it, even if you cannot be a filmmaker or a screenwriter yourself.
Were there any critics that you idolized or looked up to, or that you thought you wanted to be like, or someone who maybe inspired you? Like, were there any famous, like maybe Roger, like Darren, like Siskel and Ebert? Like, was there anybody that you kind of looked up to?
Okay, I've got to say, I don't know if she's a critic or just a theorist and like a writer, but Laura Mulvey, because when she wrote
Hmm.
about the gays, this
Yeah,
was an
yeah.
eye-opener to me. It made me reevaluate everything that I watched. And I started realizing, well, what about the female gays? You know what I mean? Like, what about if I want to show guys? You know what I mean? I'm going to show them the way men show women.
Yeah.
So her essay about the voyeurism in film and the idea of that we are voyeurs and that we are creepy and that we are also voyeuristic because we are spying on characters and actors. This made me even reevaluate my movie going and movie watching experiences because wow,
Hmm,
am I that weird? Am I a peeping Tom? Because I'm
interesting.
spying on people at their most vulnerable moments. Is this me? So she kind of like turned my whole life upside down. And then of course I read other critics and there's Pauline Hill, whatever.
Hmm.
I don't remember her name, sorry. But serious, and there's a great critic that one of our friends recommended her to me, and I have her books stacked, but I haven't read any of them. But if I'm talking honest, Laura Mulvey changed the way I watched myself watching movies. So it is a very, like breaking the fourth wall experience. I
Hmm.
was looking at myself as I watched these films and enjoyed some the disturbing ones.
Okay. Well, that's great. I think David Fincher says that people are perverts, right? I think that's a
And great
very,
creatives are perverts. This is what
yeah.
I believe. Yes.
I mean, you hear that word and you're kind of like, oh, that's kind of a weird word to put on somebody. But you have to be, in a way, you have to be a voyeur to look in on these people's lives. You know what I mean? You have to look at it in a way that, people are always, um, uh, y- if you're going to peer into somebody's life, you have to know them in and out. And in a way, you have to be very voyeuristic to understand that. So again, I really appreciate that. Again, all the articles that you read, yeah, again, the Women in Session, like you're really heavy in those in that rotation. And you host that a lot of people. You have Kristen Battistella, is that
Baristella.
Battistella,
Yes.
Zita Short, Amy Thomason, our mutual friend Megan Kearns, who we've had on before, we're going to have on again. All these
Adore
people
Megan.
that I love. I love hearing your interactions and the way that you talk to each other. And you, again, there was a Tom Cruise episode we were talking about, like he was, and again, I think you're a kindred spirit in this way because you've got so many ideas that Johnny and I kind of vibe with. And one of them is that Tom Cruise he's a dramatic actor. He can be so good when he focuses on A Few Good Men and on Eyes Wide Shut. But then he also does Mission Impossible and he does, all these other things that kind of, yeah, he's good in those. But Johnny and I really want to see Tom Cruise do A Few Good Men. We love him in that stuff. So again, that's a great kind of perspective there. I love how you talked about when Tom Cruise was in the 80s. You never saw, calling him a dramatic actor or an action star was never a thing. He was just in good movies with good writing from great directors. And not everything was made for the TikTok generation. Not everything was made for teenage kind of minds, things like that. So I love that idea. I love that idea of you growing up and your parents and your grandparents introducing you to movies and how that kind of hones your experience. But why do you think that's important? Why do you think it's important, Jalen, to seek the unknown, to look at the giallos and the extremities and the kung fu films and the short films, the movies of Bergman and Michael Mann and Scorsese? Why do you think having that culture view of movies is so important? And are we missing that today in a lot of our younger current film criticism?
100%. I mean, okay, like let's be honest here, guys. I'm a small town girl from Egypt. I never traveled abroad. If I hadn't been that invested in, like art and culture from different parts of the world, I don't think I would have been able to have this conversation with two guys from a completely different world. I feel like the shared love for art, the way that you could hold a Dostoevsky novel and read it, and someone else across the universe would read it. You can have a conversation, even if your backgrounds, your languages, your where you came from, your childhoods were completely different. There is something that connected you, and there is a line in that book that both of you read and felt, "Ah, this hit me." Same goes for movies. I'm watching The Fugitive, Darren watching The Fugitive, and Johnny, same thing. But the three of us saw something that connected the three of us, and now we're having a conversation about it. This is why art matters. And this is why, I don't know, I feel there is a strange and scary way of trying to make art superficial and to make
Mhm.
it all fetch and to make it all into something that doesn't make sense anymore. We have low art next to high art. There is a pop singer whom I find, yes, okay, good, but she is being compared to Shakespeare. And I'm sorry, I think she's really good at having lots of fans. But the idea of saying that it's as great as Shakespeare, it's not about Shakespeare having, like issues, and yes, misogyny, and yes, blah, blah, blah. And there are many things that I could find wrong. But I'm talking about the idea of creating something timeless, or having words, the way that you play with the words and make them so that no one else can write like you, or no one can capture the human experience like you. I've listened to all songs by this pop singer. I don't think she has that effect on people. I don't think that influence would stay in 100 years. And so this is why I feel like we are trying to make everything into a great, wonderful, awesome movie that deserves Oscar, when no, no, this is a good movie. Yeah, it's fun. It's a great. This is awesome. But you can't just take it and turn it into a great work of art, because now I feel like the metrics for
Hmm.
deciding what is a great work of art and what is not are gone. Like, poof, they're out of the way. You have like very, very mediocre actors being heralded as he is the best out there. Give him an Oscar because you guys all have a crush on him, and he is giving you like the golden retriever personality in interviews when he
Yeah.
could be like a total dick in real life. How do you guys know this is even a reality?
Mhm.
So I can't stand the way that yes, we are trivializing art. Art is becoming trivia, like, oh yeah, let's have the TikTok moment so that you can take it out of the film. There are many films that I love from the 90s and before that have no TikTok moments. I don't think anyone can capture a moment and it would go viral. But now I'm suspicious. Even when I watch a good movie, I'm like, you guys are doing it for TikTok Nation, right? You want people to have reactions, you want that scene, you want that edit. So it's just making me deep down hurl.
Well, I think you hit on trivializing art is a perfect way to put that. Johnny, did you have any questions or any thoughts on that?
Well, I like what you say about how art and film can connect us. I think that's great because Darren and I bonded over film. That's where we started our friendship from. It's just from acting, our love of film and theater and movies, and I think that's so important. And I agree with you. I think we need more of it. We need less of the cookie cutter popcorn, explosion CGI stuff, and more of the just art, like the gritty, nitty gritty stuff. So anyway, like I say, it's great that it can connect us, and then we can all have sit here and talk about it. So I
Yeah.
agree.
It's all about the conversation, which is what we've been saying over and over and over. It doesn't matter if we agree or not. And I think the thing with people today is that if you disagree, that's an automatic check against you. And I don't. You covered, Jalen, you covered Hiroshima Mon Amour for the Lone Screenplay Nominee podcast. And Matt on that one wasn't as much of a fan of it as you were. It's one of my favorite movies. I love how it feels like poetry.
I
But
adored. Yes.
there's the thing is he explained his viewpoint on it, and those kind of elliptical, kind of dreamlike movies, he's right, they are very hit and miss for certain people, but instead of getting offended by it, you opened it to a whole other conversation about how I really appreciate your point of view because I need to have, we need to have these discussions, right?
That's the thing. That's the thing. This is what we need. Because I hate now that you can, okay, what if let's say you and I watched F1 and you went out feeling like this is the greatest film of the year. And I felt like I watched Sinners, okay, and I liked Sinners, but I didn't think highly of it as much as other people. And I was so scared that when you would write, like, yeah, guys, I liked it, but I didn't love it. I think you kind of agreed with me, Darren. Was it you? Yes. And I
Yeah.
was like so happy, like finally someone is agreeing because I was afraid. You would never imagine. I once said about Jacob Elordi, the actor, that I don't think he should be in more like movies, you guys. And his fans found me and they started quoting my tweet and writing the most heinous things. But yeah, I watched this miniseries he was in and I thought everyone was great but him. This is a good miniseries, but he's not that great of an actor.
Yeah.
So you can't say that. You just have to either go with, like the cattle mentality, or you shut your lips and stay put. So I
Yeah.
hate that.
Well, I think again, just kind of a Sinners is I can feel Ryan Coogler's passion in every frame.
I
It's not
loved it,
necessarily
but
my
it's
passion.
this is the exact. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. And
that's
so
what I was saying.
I
It's a
could
great
admire
film,
it.
but
Yeah.
it's not my great film. Like it's one of the best of the year. Good, but for me to feel like I worship this film, maybe this is not the one for me. And I'm
Right.
sorry if people find that offensive.
Well, in a way, that's kind of like my opinion of the fugitive and your opinion of the fugitive versus Johnny's opinion of the fugitive.
Yeah, we'll see, John.
Anyway, so on that topic, you said something very interesting. You said something about Jaylan, people aiming for the gold, right? And you have some articles in session with chasing the gold stuff. Like I think you wrote an article on the substance chase, with costume design and colors and things like
Mm.
that. But the thing is with The Fugitive, I don't think Andrew Davis and Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, I don't think they sat down saying, we're making the greatest movie in history. I think they just set out to make a good movie, tell a good story with good characters. And because of that, regardless of how if we love it or not or adore it or not, I think that that's admirable that they made a movie that did get Oscar attention because it was good. You can feel a movie that's pompous, right, and that's trying to go for the gold, and I think that's the difference here. So seeing into The Fugitive, what I love about The Fugitive, just surface level, it's not terrifically deep. It's not anything like groundbreaking. I just love it as an action thriller and how well it's structured, how well it's paced. The performances are great. Like the shots, it's very naturalistic, and there's nothing fancy about it. It's just presented as is, and so that's my main thing that I love about The Fugitive. Jaylan, if you could put into like a single sentence word, how would you describe The Fugitive, like as a tweet?
Ooh, okay, yeah. Kept me on the edge of my seat the entire runtime because I was really like the dull moments were very far and in between. For me, the idea that this movie had me like this is the best thing that I could describe it. It had me at the edge of my seat. Wow, a great action-paced movie kept me at the edge of my seat through the entire time, and it's like 2 hours, so it's like two
And yeah,
hour-ish,
yeah.
so it's very long, but you don't feel even the length of the film. So this is how I would describe it.
Okay, perfect. Johnny, what about you? A little blurb for The
Well,
Fugitive?
we have our kids watch these films with us when we watch them, and a lot of times they'll leave the room, and this time they didn't. They stayed in there, and I looked over at them. I watched them, and they did just what you said. They leaned forward and they looked at the screen, and they were captivated the entire time. And so I was like, okay, this is a good movie because my kids are not leaving the room.
Yeah.
They want to see it. They want to see what happens next. And so I will say, yeah, it's definitely a attention grabber.
Yeah, I've been trying to show my kids like movies that I think are important. And yeah, they're more interested in TikTok and in their phones or whatever. But I watched this last night. Here's the thing with 90s movies, I think there are movies that we covered originally that I had to struggle to come up with things to say about. Wasn't fully passionate about it. But 90s movies, I don't feel like I have to do a lot of research. Like The Fugitive, I was like, I think I know this movie so well that I don't have to watch it, but it's The Fugitive. I'm going to go ahead and watch it again because I love it. And so I brought my daughter down. Again, she's 21. I'm like, I need you to watch this because it is one of the greatest movies ever made. Like I don't know if it'd be in my top 10, top 20, top 50, but it is one of the movies that, like I said, I think about all the time. And she had the same reaction. She was leaning forward. She was like, oh my gosh. She was like, what are you doing? That kind of stuff. And at the end, she looked at me, she says, that was really good, Dad. That was really good. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's why I want, because I knew you'd appreciate it, right? But I guess if we wanted to start talking about The Fugitive, the thing that you notice most are the performances. For me, I don't know.
Yes.
Jayla, is that what you agree with that, right?
100%. First of all, how cool were actors? Now I feel like even good actors, you can rarely look at an actor and feel like you are so cool, man. Maybe Damson Idris in F1, this is what I'm hearing. But
Mhm.
seriously, you watch an actor and you find, yeah, you're a movie star, yeah, good. Blah, blah, blah. But when you see Harrison Ford and when you see Tommy Lee Jones, and they're not even like the prettiest, hottest actors of that time. But look at them. Look at the swagger. Look at the suave. And Harrison Ford is, of course, like hotter than Tommy Lee Jones. So,
Right.
but when you look at
He's
them,
not as craggy.
exactly, like Tommy Lee Jones is Tommy Lee Jones. You know what I mean? He has that Tommy Lee Jonesy look
Swagger, you're
about
right.
him. And the way they are introduced, the way they enter, the way the scene starts with that actor, and you feel like movie star. Look at this, commanding the scene, commanding the screen. No matter how many other actors are there, they just own it. Also, the stoic characters, like Tyler Jones is for me is very unlikable in this film. But the dude is
Interesting.
actually doing his job. Like he's a guy doing his job, but I don't emotionally connect or resonate with him. But then I also realize that I don't have to. This is, I think, one of my problems with, okay, I'm gonna bring it up again. Sinners. I don't have to feel anything for that vampire. Like I don't care about him. Like the evil Irish vampire. I don't even remember his name. I don't want to know his backstory. I don't want to know anything about him. Sometimes I just want to enjoy a movie and not have to think about the character history. Sometimes it works, like in Heat. But in something like The Fugitive, I don't care. Like, I didn't really want to know anything about Gerard's family life. Was
Yeah.
he married or not? Was he good? Was he a good father? Was he a good person? Did he cheat on his wife? I don't care. I just want him to catch that guy or not. Richard Kimball, even I didn't want to invest more in his relationship with his wife. All I want to know is he going to know the killer or not? And I think this all lies on the shoulders of these two actors having a cat and mouse game together. But I also got to give it to the supporting cast because, like Johnny said, the team, and Darren too, I think, the team around Gerard, they're just so good. And you want to know more. These are the people I wanted to know more about.
Hmm.
I really wanted to know more about them. I wanted to know more about Poole, and I wanted to know more about, yes, exactly, Poole and Renfro. These were the two people I like. I want to know about these people. I want to know what they eat. I want to know
Right.
about their family life, how they came to be in this police, like office, and the ranks and how they got to be in the team. These are the people I'm interested in, and honestly, I didn't find a problem with that. I wanted to know more about Julianne Moore's character too, because she
Yeah.
was very interesting to me.
Well, it's interesting. Julianne Moore is in it, and she's a star now. What they cut her part out because I think what happened was they were establishing her as a love interest for Kimball, and to me, I'm like, it's been less than a year since he's lost his wife. I think it was
Ew,
inappropriate to kind of do that because that's his whole
exactly.
drive. If you make, oh, he's got this other love interest as he's trying to avenge his wife, it doesn't work. And so I like that they cut it out, but she's still strong in her few scenes. Again, I will come back to that. I want to make that a main topic, but you're talking about Joe Pantoliano, you're talking about Daniel Roebuck, Tom Wood, L. Scott Caldwell, Johnny Lee Davenport. That's Gerard's team. But Johnny, just focusing on Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, who are the showcase here. What everything that Jaylan was talking about, I mean, and the performances being the strong suit here. Do you agree with that, or what do you think of them as movie stars?
I definitely agree. I think they both have a commanding presence. I think they are movie stars in their own right. Harrison Ford, obviously, Han Solo and Indiana Jones.
Right, right.
And we kept saying, hey, it's Indiana Jones and Two-Face and Cypher. They're
Yeah,
all on screen together.
yeah.
But yeah, so I agree. Definitely Harrison Ford has that magnetic, presence, and you want to see what he's going to do and say. And my only critique about Harrison Ford in this film, and actually most of his films where he plays like an action star in some right, where he has to like run or fall, he falls and runs very awkwardly, and it's very hard for me to watch. Like one example is it what's that movie? The Jack Ryan movie or the
Fear and Present Danger or
yeah, Clear
Patriot Games.
Desert. He has a
Yeah,
moment where he falls in front of an explosion behind him, and he falls so oddly, and you're like, who taught him how to fall like that? It's just so weird. And so when I watch him in this movie, same kind of things. Like when he falls on the floor, he's like trying to get up and he's running. It's just awkward. But when you watch Tom Cruise run, it's like I can watch him run all day. Like he's so good at running and jumping. He can like jump
Run,
across
Tom, run.
break his
yeah,
ankle, and you're like, yeah, it looks cool doing it. But like Harrison Ford falls down, and you're like, oh man, learn how to run, man.
a little bit awkward.
But as far as his acting goes, he's great. I was rooting for him. I think he does a great job as the the hero.
The protagonist. Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones, yeah, I think he is very strong. I've always liked him. But like you, when I first saw it when I was younger, I didn't like the character, and so I was kind of like, why'd they make a sequel for this character alone? Like he's not the character that I want to watch another movie about solely about him. I didn't mind it when it was going back and forth with Harrison Ford and him, you know what I mean, the cat and mouse thing. But I don't want to just watch Tommy Lee Jones as this character. He's too unlikable. I think that's why U.S. Marshals didn't do as well as The Fugitive.
Interesting. Okay. Well, my viewpoint on this is, and again, going back to you're not out to make great art. You're just out to make something good that you hope will last, right? The thing with Kimball is we don't know much about him beyond like he loved his wife and that his wife is killed. He's accused of it. He's trying to prove himself innocent and find the killer. That's all you need to hook you into a movie. That is all that you need. You are on his side because you see that he's unjustly imprisoned. You see that those two Chicago cops just have something, they have it out for him, or they're just not interested in pursuing the case anymore. They think they have it down cold, right? So that gets you automatically interested in him. Stoic, Jaylan, is the word that you used. And Tamara Lee Jones, I think, on behind the scenes made fun of Harrison Ford for always just doing the Harrison Ford thing. Some people say that maybe Harrison Ford should have gotten a nomination. I don't know about that for Oscars because I think Harrison Ford is just doing his Harrison Ford thing and he's very strong at. He does it perfectly because he's Harrison Ford.
Exactly.
And then with Tommy Lee Jones, you two both hit on something very interesting because when I watched it, yeah, I didn't like Tommy Lee Jones either. But the thing is, he is the antagonist. So naturally, you're going to root against the antagonist. You know that Kimball is innocent, but you see Tommy Lee Jones going after him. Jaylan, what do you think?
I'll tell you why in this particular case it felt just right. Because in Heat, also a movie that I watched as a kid, and then I had like many experiences with it, I was rooting for Hannah. No, not Hannah, Macaulay. I was
Macaulay,
rooting for
yep.
Macaulay. I mean,
Who's the
I was
bad
watching
guy?
because I just loved him more. This guy wants to watch the ocean and he's reading books and he has this interesting girlfriend. Why do you have to kill him? You blah blah blah, like Vincent Hanna. Why are you doing this? Why are you after him? Leaving him alone. And I was so angry as a kid. So in this movie, no, it felt like okay, the antagonist, the guy, just Gerard, to hell with Tommy Lee Jones. But when I was watching Heat, it was so hard for me. I think because not everyone can do three-dimensional characters like that. When you see Hannah, sometimes you love him, sometimes you hate him. Same goes for Macaulay. But
Yeah,
here, the lines are set. There is no, it's very black and whitish, and it suits it, and it's cool, at least for me.
right. Well, the thing with Tommy Lee Jones, like I said, he's the antagonist. You're naturally going to root against him. But the thing is, I think this is the origination of the Tommy Lee Jones part. Like if you want, like Lincoln, he's Tommy Lee Jones. Men in Black, you hire him for this because Captain America, you hire him because you know Tommy Lee Jones is going to deliver a line the only way that Tommy Lee Jones can deliver it, right? And I think this is the origin of that. This is him firmly. But the thing is, I think Gerard is so smart. He's so dogged. The U.S. Marshal's job is not to figure out the logistics of the case and figure out the guy's in it. The U.S. Marshals are just there to capture him. That's that line where he says, "I didn't kill my wife. I don't care." That sums him up perfectly, right?
I was gonna say, you
But
stole my part.
I think when you grow up watching when every time I've watched The Fugitive, I love Gerard more and more and more because he's so smart, he's so funny. When they're listening to that recording and he's like, "There's no such thing as an L. How can you hear the L?" And they go through the whole thing and they limit it, and he's like, "I knew that was an elevated train." Like some people, like you're such an arrogant ass, right? But I'm like, oh, he's just being. That's his way of admitting that he was wrong, right? Still by still being. I just think that, and again, when he Gerard would be so much more easy to hate if he was a dumb idiot. I think the thing is with this movie, Kimball is just doing the most brazen thing possible that they don't expect it. They're always a step behind him. They don't expect Kimball to show up at the prison. They don't expect Kimball to walk back into like the bad guy's apartment. They don't expect any of that. And I don't think that they're dumb because we do see these other cops, like those two Chicago cops and how they arrest the drug dealer, right? But then the next scene, they're like, "Oh, the Kimball's in your basement. Let me give you a burrito, even though we know you're a guilty drug dealer, right?" I love the running gag in this movie that everybody seems to take everybody else at face value of what they say, except for Gerard, who digs deeper. It's the first when he shows up on scene, and that fake cop is talking about, "Oh, I grabbed this other cop. I threw him out like I was the hero," right? Gerard sees right through it. The other cop is eating it up to the point where Poole, I think, or somebody comes and he finds the shackles and he's like, "Oh, aren't we interested to find leg shackles without any legs in them?" I think Gerard's team is so smart. But again, because he's the antagonist, we root against him, even though he's a smart, fun, dogged character. He doesn't just let it set. He starts investigating the prosthetic arm. He starts investigating because he wants I just think he's too smart for that. And I don't know, I'm going on and on and on. I just think Tommy Lee Jones in this movie is he set a trend for these characters that are just so smart that they're not just limited to doing what a screenplay tells them to do. They kind of live on beyond those words. I don't know, Jillian, what do you think?
I also like, yes, exactly. There are two defining lines for Gerard. What you said, I don't care. Also, I don't bargain. This made me hate him. Why? Because it felt like he's gonna do what he wants. Yes, he loves his team. For me, it's obvious. Even in his own Gerard way, he loves his team. But he's gonna do what he wants. So I think also because we as humans are programmed to hate or to be intimidated by that level of intelligence. Like this
Mhm.
is a very smart guy, maybe too smart for the average person. Kimball is the same. He is smarter than the average surgeon, but because there is an emotional attachment to Kimball. Oh, his wife is murdered. He wants to prove his innocence. He loves his wife. They shattered his whole world. You are accustomed to, kind of like conditioned to be with him. But when you think about it, but Gerard is the same. He's also a too smart guy, and he wants to catch the man. He doesn't give a shit about the reasons that this guy is innocent or not. All he knows is you're convicted, so I'm taking you. Also, it's at the end of it, it becomes like this, like male ego kind of thing. Like, yeah, I'm gonna catch you, and the other is no, you're not. So you can see that in those movies. They were very masculine movies back in the day, and they weren't shy about it. They were just showing it. You know what I mean? Like, this is the guy cop, and this is the guy thief, and boom, 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 and this is gonna happen. So yeah, I think part of the reason that maybe you don't really feel for him or you don't like him is because he's just who he is, and he just goes for it, and he is unapologetic about it. And although unapologetic characters are really kick-ass characters, but sometimes we feel like, but I don't like you, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of the
Interesting.
part.
Johnny, any thoughts on any of that?
Well, I'm not going to take anything away from his performance. I think he was great. I mean, I love Tommy Lee Jones. Don't get me wrong. However, when you look at the people who were nominated for Best Supporting Actor that year, you had Ray Fiennes in Schindler's List. You had John Malkovich in The Line of Fire. You had Leonardo DiCaprio in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And I don't think anybody can do what Leo did in Gilbert Grape. I mean, honestly, I thought he was retarded because he did such a good job.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I don't agree with him winning the Academy Award, but I think his performance is still, top-notch performance.
Okay. Well, I do have a thought on that. Jaylen, what do you think of that? You're agreeing with Leo as the best actor that year?
I mean, give it to Leo, or at least Ralph Fiennes. You know what I mean? He was just awful and scary and kind of like menacing. But seriously, Leo DiCaprio, of course, should have been the winner because I got annoyed with him. I really hated it. He was always dirty and he was always gross, and you could feel like, oh my God, I can't, this kid. But then there is a scene where he's crying with his mother, and your heart breaks. So this kind of performance, of course, deserved it. I feel like Tommy Lee Jones won it for, I think, the allure of the role, maybe the allure of the fugitive. Whenever I research the Oscars, unfortunately, I discover like the history behind like which
Yeah.
performance won this year. And it's always about, like the best campaign, the movie that did best in the box office, or like had the best hype. So I'm always, disappointed by the choices, especially when you see all the other nominees and you're like, wait a minute, what? This was nominated. Oh my God. So definitely I agree with Johnny. Of course, he didn't deserve for in my opinion, no one deserved the nomination. Why make it like difficult for everyone, guys?
Yeah.
Maybe give, like editing if it's good, maybe give something like the technicality of the film, but don't give the performances. They're good for what they are, the genre itself, but don't give them, like don't reward them. But hey, maybe they saw something we
Yeah.
didn't.
Well, here's my opinion on Tommy Lee Jones. It's one of my favorite Best Supporting Actor wins of all time, and I'll tell you why. But before that, the thing with the Oscars is they're very subjective. Like the people that vote are not us, right? So they're never 99% of the time they're not gonna like mesh
They're
with our
lost.
thoughts. Yeah, yeah, right. And it's the same thing, Jaylan, you said. It's like, why are you nominating just these ones? It's like that's not. I bet there are other performances that we haven't thought of or aren't nominated that maybe are better than that. But Oscars are more about the allure, right? The reason that Tommy Lee Jones is so wonderful for me is because I think he's the entire point of the movie. Like you look at Kimball, he doesn't really have an arc, right? He accomplishes his goal and that's it. And that's fine. You don't need more than that. Tommy Lee Jones, like you said, Jaylen, he has that line, I don't bargain. But at the end, he bargains, right? He has a character change. Without that, if he just kept it as I don't bargain and that's it, and then at the end, like Kimball proves himself, and then Gerard's like, oh well, nothing I could do, that would be a boring movie. I just think that he's instead of being a two-dimensional character, by changing his viewpoint, by still chasing after Kimball, but also changing this other lead, it makes Gerard a three-dimensional character. His best supporting actor, that sums up the movie for me. He is the character that's supporting everything. He changes, right? He's leading the team. If it's not for him, Kimball, and the way it's written, Kimball would not have proved. He maybe would have gotten his friend, right? He would have gotten Nichols, but Tommy Lee Jones investigating and proving of, oh, he actually borrowed your car, right? He had the keys. I have all this this intelligence and this evidence that proves your innocence. Without that, it would not be an open and shut case. I don't know. The Oscars are very subjective. Like I said, everybody can have different opinions. I think Leo's maybe given better performances since then, even though I think he's great in Grape. But I don't know. I just love Tommy Lee Jones in this movie as the crux of the movie. He's the whole point. Johnny, you and I have a mutual friend where I was like, we asked him once, did you not like The Fugitive? And he said, no. Why not? I just didn't like the Tommy Lee Jones character. And I'm like, well, I can't really argue with that. Like, if you don't like him, like I have a different opinion. I don't know. It's just, you know what I mean? The Oscars are very subjective, I think.
Yeah, I think Leo didn't win because he went full retard. You can't go full retard.
There you go. You can get the respect and the attention, but I don't know, Jaylan. This is what we're talking about. It's like we can have these different opinions. I think we can all agree, though, that Tommy Lee Jones is great in this movie, whether or not he won an award or not. I think it's very, again, a nuanced part.
Everyone is great in this movie. Everyone just works perfectly. Perfectly. This is why, like I'm telling you, this movie it has the perfection elements, all of it, because it's a great action movie that you can enjoy. It's very well made. The reveals are right on spot. When you have like the 1 hour mark time, you have had enough meat, enough investment in this film. No one veers, like, oh my God, this is so out of character. Why is this character acting so stupid?
Yeah.
Everything makes sense. I love this so much. I love it when the movie is like on point. It's like a ballerina just standing, like on their toes. Yes, this movie is just perfect. Please don't ruin it. So yeah, I hate it when a movie just like messes it up at the end. I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh.
You want a smart movie with smart characters doing smart things. That's all I ask for, right? Don't do dumb things that's going to take me out of the movie. So again, going back to the team, this is another thing that like I said, every time I watch this movie, I fall more in love with Tommy Lee Jones. I really love his team. You can sense that they've been working together a long time. They have a dynamic that just works. I love when they're trying to capture Kimball in the bridge, under the bridge, right? And they're looking for him, and like Bobby Biggs, the Daniel Robot character, he's looking on one end, Gerard's looking on the other, and then he's like, "Did you find anything?" And Biggs is like, "You got to be kidding me! You got to be kidding me!" Like it's so that's not written. It feels very organic to their relationship. I love when, again, they go chasing after Kimball in the viaducts and the sewers. Kimball jumps out. I love Tommy Lee Jones's line. He did a Peter Pan right off this. Right up. I thought it was great. But it cuts to a very interesting shot where it just cuts to his team and they're like yelling at each other. And finally, Tommy Lee Jones is like, there's no way out of this place. They get lost and and it's just a quick character moment. And when they show this on network TV or cable TV, that's a scene that they cut out because it's not integral to the plot. And to me, I'm like, you're losing the whole personality and the whole fun of this movie. Yeah, there's the structure of it, but you're missing this dynamic between the team. Again, when Joe Pantoliano, what's his character's name? It's
Cosmo Renfro.
Cosmo Renfro. When they're waiting for Kimball or whatever, and Gerard starts yelling at him, he's like, "Why are you always yelling at me?" And they have that, and then Biggs comes up or whatever, and he's like, and he yells at him. He's like, "There you go!" Like there's just such a fun dynamic, and I don't know, like it gives so much personality to the movie when they're arguing about what hinky means. You know what I mean? I don't want you to hang
I
around
love
before
this
the hanging.
part.
Yeah, all that stuff. That's so much. Without it, I don't think I would love the movie as much because it adds such a fun dynamic and such a realism to it. I don't know. Jalen, did you have any other thoughts on the team?
I just I feel like there was something back then that they made that really made you feel like this is a believable, let's say, a newspaper. This is a believable police station. This is a team that has worked with each other for a long time. You could feel even there was care given to like the background characters, like the side actors, like the side characters. It wasn't just about the leads, and it didn't feel forced and weird and I don't know, staged in a way. Now I feel like many movies you could watch them and they're staged and they're even great movies, but you don't get that dynamic that you were just talking about. It's the idea that these people are not acting. You could tell these actors maybe rehearsed a lot. Maybe they worked with each other so good. Maybe they were given like liberty to improvise, but just act as if you are these people. This is why it doesn't feel foreign, or you don't feel like I need to pause and like, really? I don't know. It feels odd. It feels awkward. This is what I feel because I've seen even like some of the good movies, and it always feels as if the characters are popping out of nowhere and their interactions with each other is strange. And then sometimes you hear like, well, he wasn't there, he wasn't present, and we shot that in another studio, or like we shot this through a green screen and then we put that actor in, and then you realize, aha, maybe that's why. Maybe people don't have chemistry anymore. Maybe you feel like it's strange, or you don't feel like the vibe. So you felt that nest, you felt that vibe of that team because the actors were just chosen perfectly, even for minor roles, even when they have like minor lines. And you could tell that there is a lot of investment in getting the actors to interact with each other. Also, one of the things that I like is I feel like Kimball doesn't talk a lot in this movie, and I like
Mhm.
the idea of the stoic character not having many lines of dialogue, although the antagonist on the same level is very talkative, and you can feel like Gerard is talking a lot. And I love that so much because you could tell that Kimball, not just because of the tragedy that happened to him, but he is a character that kind of emotionally suppresses or kind of like keeps it to himself, while Gerard is out there, even with his, like kind of like this intellectual superiority to other people. So I like see even those subtle things, they make the differences between the characters, and they make it very fleshy and very alive and very interesting for you
Fleshy.
to just get invested.
Yeah, that's perfect. Uh, yeah, I think the thing, it makes sense narratively too, because Kimball doesn't have anybody to talk to. He's by himself. Like, why would he talk a lot, right? And that's why the stoicism comes from. Tommy Lee Jones, Gerard, he's around people all the time and he's constantly trying to think. So that narratively it makes sense. The thing with that team dynamic and those little flourishes too. You watch YouTube reactors that watch movies these days and they're like, why was that in there? Why was this in there? Move on. And I'm like, well, you would make a very boring filmmaker because your movies would have no life and no personality, any of that. Johnny, you wanted to talk about Joe Pantoliano. I mean,
Oh,
any other
sure.
thoughts?
Just I agree with you guys. I think the chemistry is definitely there. I think they did a great job with the team. But Joey Pants, he's the comic relief. And I just wanted more of that. I
Yeah.
think there were like opportunities where they could have had more, funny lines. He didn't mention when he says search every warehouse, farmhouse, outhouse, and doghouse. He didn't say whorehouse. And I think it could have been a funny thing if Pants would have said, not the whorehouses, or something, like anyway, there's moments where he could have had a funny zinger that he didn't do. And I was like, I wanted more of those comic relief moments.
But it's always good when it leaves you wanting more, right? As opposed
Yeah.
to having too much of it. And yeah, you got more of that in U.S. Marshals. That's a completely different, weird kind of movie and everything. But yeah, I love that there's Joey Pants adds a lot to that. So I guess the last thing that I really want to talk about, again, this is a bucket list season, so I want to mention this, is I think this movie is so well paced. That first part, I love how the credits take 15 minutes and they're still going, right? But then as soon as they're over and you're introduced to Tommy Lee Jones, you're like, oh, that was all kind of introducing me to the plot. Now we're getting going. So I think it makes sense thematically. I think that whole part from the very beginning all the way to the part where Kimball jumps off of the dam, right? And again, when you watch YouTube reactors, they're like, "There's no way he would survive that," right? But and again, when I look at that, I'm like, "Yeah, that's true." But if he died, that would be the end of the movie. For this movie, you have to accept the reality of what you're watching. He has to survive, right? Jaylan, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I mean, yes, there were, of course, many exaggerations in movies of that time. But doesn't everything doesn't have to have logic when you're living the logic of the film itself. Yes, of course, no one survives this. Hello, not even, like an actual person who is really good at swimming and really good at doing like free jumping or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
care. But what I know is I don't care. I just want him to live, and he lived. Good for me. This is what movies used to be about. It used to get you as an audience member to live in their world. Maybe sometimes you'd feel like, you're fooling me. I don't care. I like you. Many people get shot in the weirdest of places. Many people don't bleed, and you don't get what you like learn in textbooks because I was in pharmacy school, so I know a lot about bleeding. I took first aid courses. So,
Hmm.
of course, that, oh yeah, trauma, oh yeah, infection. Hey, where's your tetanus shot, doctor? But you don't care because this is the reality of the film. And you are such a good filmmaker, good screenwriter that you actually drew me in. So I suspended belief a little bit. I suspended logic a little bit. Unlike now, where you feel yourself picking faults with the movie. Like, why? Because they really don't do it very well these days. So you find yourself being very critical, like, yeah,
Right.
right. Like this could happen. So this is exactly why these movies are legends, are gems, because they really do it so good. And even the things you dislike, you're like, I don't care, man. You survived. Ah, good job for you, Kimball. This is what you would say at the end of that scene.
You remember that it's a movie. It reminds you that you're watching a movie. I think we've lost a lot of that, right? So again, it goes from that part. I love how it ends. The first act basically ends with Kimball like he's on the run, he falls, and then he's flashing back to his wife's death, and he wakes up, and it's just the voiceover. You find that man. find that man, right? And that sets his goal for the rest of the movie. What's interesting though is, again, you watch YouTubers. It's so funny that for the next 10 minutes, I've seen too many people go, "What is he doing? Why is he doing that?" And I'm like, did you not hear the part when he said you find that man? Are you not getting that the movie is telling you these things and where what the character's goals are, right?
I will
So,
tell you why.
yes.
They are used to being spoon-fed things these days. Seriously, you have to like, okay, you know what they want? They want the character saying out loud, well, you know what? I'm gonna hide because they are trying to. I swear, modern audiences of the younger generation, this is what they want.
Yeah, it's like I said, they'd make very boring filmmakers because everything is rooted in logic, right? And it's like movies don't have to be logical to work, guys. Let's not focus too much on that. I think I think the movie is so breathless and so perfectly paced for that first act that there's kind of a lull after that where they kind of have to step back and like put more pieces together. I think it becomes more as the movie goes on. I think my one flaw with the my real flaw, one flaw with the movie is that it becomes more generic as it goes. Not totally generic. It just becomes more kind of predictable in a way, and it settles into kind of a formula, which again is not a huge problem, but it doesn't have that same breathless energy at the beginning. But I think Andrew Davis's direction here is so good that this movie is basically a series of cat and mouse games between Kimball and Gerard's team. And they keep setting up these set pieces that are so brilliantly executed. Not just him escaping, Kimball escaping the first time. My favorite sequence, and again, they're one step behind because Kimball is making these brazen attempts. When Gerard finally starts to realize maybe there's more to this one-armed man thing than I thought, and he starts investigating it, as Kimball is investigating, oh, these few people that have had those prosthetic arm replacement, let me go talk with them. It leads him to the police station, to the jail, right? He gets in the the elevator. All the other cops kind of swore, and he's like, it's uncomfortable because like, oh, he could be caught, right? He goes up, he sees it's the wrong guy, and this is when Gerard and his team show up and they have that hinky conversation. Gerard says, I don't want to be around people who use words that have no meaning. I'm going to take the stairs. He starts walking up the stairs. It cuts back to Kimball upstairs. Kimball walks out after realizing it's the wrong guy. He doesn't want to take the elevator again because it's been set up how uncomfortable it is. He walks down the stairs, and you think, oh shit, because it's so suspense. You think that they're going to meet. And then it does this brilliant thing where it has Ford walking down, and then the camera moves, and you see that Gerard has come up. Tommy Lee Jones has come up the other stairs. But then, because Gerard is so smart, he realizes, was that Kimball? He goes to see him. The YouTubers again, when Gerard calls out Kimball and he looks up, they're like, don't look up at your name. I'm like, well, that's instinctive, right? That's what you would do. But
Especially in a situation like that.
yeah, you don't know. So it leads to that whole chase. He runs through the gates with the bulletproof glass. Like Gerard tells them to open the doors. Kimball gets through. He's able to get away, goes, and then Gerard gets to the doors and the doors are still closed and he turns around, open the door. It's such a fun character moment. But I love these cat and mouse sequences. They're so perfectly built. Even the scene where Kimball is in what's the bad guy's name? Andreas Katsoulis. His the name of the
I,
characters. Anybody have that off top of their head?
I forgot.
Sykes or
Sykes.
Sykes.
Sykes. That's what
Yes,
it is.
Sykes. Yes.
He's in his apartment. He calls Gerard. They have that scene that you've seen in countless movies where just keep him on the line for 10 more seconds. Keep him on. Keep him on. It's building in intensity. You're like, no, Kimball, hang up the phone. And what does he do? He said, well, I am trying to solve a puzzle and I found a big piece. And he he moves the phone, but he doesn't hang up. It subverts the idea of that whole scene. And then, like, he didn't hang up. He wanted us to go there. I just think that this movie is so perfectly structured, and it gets to the part of the end at the hotel where it's like there's nowhere else to go. Logically, this is the last part. Everybody's converging. The cops, Kimball on Nichols, the Gerard's team, they're all converging on it. It's just so perfectly structured. I don't know, Jayla, did you have any thoughts on any of that?
What you just mentioned, I love these minute details about Gerard's character, why he's a good policeman. When you mentioned in the beginning the scene where, you know, like this cop is like, yeah, of course I saved my colleague, but the camera pans, you know, like changes perspective on Gerard and you feel he's suspicious. So this means that he is a very good policeman because he reads people. He knows when someone is lying. He reads body language. How did he recognize Kimball? From the way Kimball kind of like moves down the stairs when cut to the police station. So this is even when I was watching, is like, damn, this is why he is very good at his job. This is why he's so intelligent. He recognized him from the way he kind of like went down the stairs because he's just going up and Kimball is going down. he knows, like, you could tell this is a guy who really doesn't let anything go by. Nothing is fleeting moment for him. He just studies the moment. He studies the person. And he has what they call the photographic memory, where this
Mhm.
person is imprinted in his mind. So I love the idea that yes, he is intelligent. Some movies, okay, why is he intelligent? Because he says jargon and crap? No, it's even evident in all the, yeah, exactly. And people are like, oh, you speak English. Uh-uh. So in this movie, it's just those minute details where you go to yourself, well, he's really good at his job. He deserves that. So I don't know. Everything is perfection. Everything is just good. And the culmination and kind of like when it's so climaxing till the end, even when the I don't care, I don't bargain guy starts to soften a little bit and starts to have that change in his character arc, it makes sense for this character, for Gerard. See, you have the satisfying ending and you have the satisfying scenes, and you go home happy.
He's still just as dogged and as relentless. He just changes his perspective, right? That's what you love. Johnny,
Yes.
any thoughts about the cat and mouse structure? Any favorite sequences? Anything like that?
Well, I really, really enjoy that part of this movie. I love that they are able to do that. When I first saw it, and when he first jumped off the water thing, when
The
he
dam.
made that leap, I was one of the ones that went, "There's no way he survived that." You know what I mean? So, but my kids didn't. They were like, "Oh, he survived! Yay!" And they were all excited that he was still alive, like you. So, I mean, I do appreciate that you can suspend disbelief and you can just, get to the whole thing and enjoy it. And I think they do a really good job of constructing it and making the whole cat and mouse thing. It's really fun. Like I said, I can't really fault it too much because they do a lot of things right.
Yeah. It's kind of like Speed that we also did an episode on. It's like, yeah, it's implausible, but the direction and the pacing is so well done that you don't question it, unless you're a dumb YouTuber, that's your whole existence, right? You don't question it because you're caught up in the magic of movies. I think that's something, again, that people have lost. Johnny, we've talked about this already before. It's people, instead of enjoying the matte painting, instead of enjoying the stop motion, they go, oh, matte painting. It's like, I don't understand why you're watching movies, first of all, but I don't also understand how you're not approaching it from the love of. I think The Fugitive, whenever I watch it, I'm reminded of why I love movies in the first place, because they tell good stories with good characters. They are very well paced, and you live in this world for 2 hours. I just love it. Jaylan, is there anything else that you wanted to say? Any bucket list like thoughts on The Fugitive that you wanted to say before we wrap up?
It's just that I always love movies when it's like having two protagonists. Okay, it doesn't have to be like a guy or a guy woman. It doesn't matter. All I know is that this era of filmmaking and maybe the era before it, it's just so good when you have like two people. Yes, other people are like scattered around them, but there are two people and it's a very complex love-hate relationship. I have seen multiple films from that time, from the 90s especially, and probably from the 80s, maybe early aughts anyway, but mainly the 90s, where it's just the cop and the thief, or like the escapee and like the one on his tail. And it's just so good because they are very well structured characters and they get you so invested in that world and you get you so invested in their story, in that tale, in that particular time where you just turn off the TV and go to sleep and feel very good about yourself. So I feel like The Fugitive is one of those movies where you feel the magic, the idea that you can put two actors on screen. You don't really care about them in real life. You don't care about the celebrities and the countless press interviews and playing with puppies and playing with kittens and having, like all those crazy nicknames and the most searched questions on the internet. There was no that. There was just a good actor on screen doing his job, getting you to love him or to hate him, and then you turn on the TV and you go home and you don't care about that character, what he's doing in
Yeah.
his spare time. Oh my God, look at him living Gus fans. I don't want to know if he loves me as a fan. I don't care. All I want to know is he making a good movie or not?
Yeah.
So that movie gives me that. This is all I want.
Perfect. Johnny, any final thoughts on The Fugitive?
I agree with what you said, 100%. That's what I would have said.
Right. Perfect. Okay. Well, again, this is The Fugitive, great movie. Again, it reminds me why I love movies. Jaylan, thank you so much. And like we talked about, I don't know if we recorded this part, but I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours on all your viewpoints, on all
Same.
your ideas on feminism in movies, your ideas of like makeup and costume and how they tie in with like how movies are viewed and how they're like pulled, accomplished and everything. Like I love all that. I love your viewpoints on like when I think it was in one of the episodes, again, they all seem like one conversation when I think about it, but you talking about becoming a film critic, and you're like, you find something that you latch onto because you want to feel like you're part of something. You want to feel like you found a safe space that you can walk up to people and just be in this group, right? And I love that whole idea. Again, your articles, you're so personal. It's you're the type of critic that I'm like, there's so much of you in everything that you write. And I think that's very rare in a lot of critics these days. Like I said, a lot of them are just after the let me get the attention, let me get the likes on Twitter, stuff like that. Your horror mother monster article, like you talked about, you worked on that for so long, and you can feel that it's very personal. I'm gonna try to remember to link that here because I think everybody should read that. That is the
Thank you.
thing that I look for in film criticism because I know where you're coming from. We can disagree all like to the ends of the earth. We can disagree on everything, but as long as I know where you're coming from and how you came to that opinion, that is what I look for in a film conversation. I appreciate that so much. So if you could let us know, Jaylan, how to find you on InSession or Twitter or anything like Instagram, how can people find you and catch up with you?
Wow, thank you, Darin. This was like an emotional moment for me.
Oh,
Okay, so people can find me Jaylan_Salah on Twitter. Blue Sky is Jaylan Salah too,
okay.
or Jaylan Salman, something like that. On Instagram, definitely Jaylan Salman, and the J Days, of course, a YouTube channel. And you can find my writings on InSession Film, Geek Vibes Nation, and the stuff that I do. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Again, seek out Jaylan. Seek out everything that she says. I think Jonny, would you agree? I think there's so much more that we can talk with her about, and so much more that we can learn from her through the movies that we watch. I would love to have her back on. What do you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. Where do I find one of those headphone sets with the light microphone? Can I get
Yeah,
one of those?
tell us all about
I got it from Amazon. I swear it's just like, whoa, okay, yay. Great headphones for recording podcasts. And it
Yeah, I
just,
love it.
boom, it was on discount. If only you know my like buying habits. Jonny, you would feel like, okay, great, Jaylan. Don't recommend anything to me again.
it. All right, that's awesome. Again, Jaylan, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Again, The Fugitive is a movie that means a lot to me, and it means a lot that you were part of this conversation, and we know you through how you watch this movie. So, again, everybody out there, please check out her work and listen to everything that she says. It's so important. So, we'll wrap up for now, but until next time, for NostalgiaCast, I'm Darin Lumberg.
And I'm Johnny Craddock.
And let's see, what's my favorite line? It's like, okay, get a cane pole, go find the fish that ate him.
I thought you didn't care.
I don't bargain.
Awesome. Jaylan, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.